we are ready to make our gooey butter cake. We're going to start with some warm water. Now this needs to be between 110 and 115 degrees, so very warm. And then we're using 2 tablespoons of that and 3 tablespoons of room temperature milk. The milk is just to help the yeast to have a little bit of sugar to activate. So we want to just whisk this together a little bit with our yeast, and then you're just going to let it sit for probably about 10 minutes. You want it to, you'll be able to tell when it's activated. It foams up. You can see some bubbles here, but it literally foams up. It looks like maybe the top of a latte cappuccino or something. So moving on, we're going to use our electric mixer here to cream together 6 tablespoons of butter. This is at room temperature, just makes it easier for mixing. So try to set it out ahead of time so you're not pulling it out cold from the fridge. And then we are going to put in 3 tablespoons of sugar. And that was also a teaspoon of salt. So we're going to go ahead and get cream the butter and sugar together and the salt. And then we'll add the egg. Gooey butter cake was actually first made on accident. It was in the 1930s in the St. Louis area. And a German immigrant baker was trying to make cake, but he kind of messed up some of the proportions of butter and flour and things, and it turned out to be more gooey than a regular cake, and it became a fan favorite. So here we're just going back and forth, alternating, adding flour. We're using a cup and 1 3/4 cup of flour, and then our active yeast blend that we let sit. So we're just going back and forth, like I said, alternating, making sure to scrape down, make sure everything's mixed in. And we were actually supposed to put that egg in before this. So just pretend that we did that. I'll put it in here in a minute, remember, but we're just going to beat this dough until it starts pulling away from the sides of the bowl, basically until it looks more like dough and not so sticky. Probably about 10 minutes. So we're just going to go ahead and keep alternating back and forth between flour and the yeast mixture, just making sure that that is really getting all blended in together well and making a nice dough. If it's still too sticky, you can always add a little bit more flour, and that's just fine. Now we're going to take this dough and press it down into an ungreased baking dish. This is, you can do 9 by 13, that's the size we recommend. At least 2 inches deep, and just make sure it's pressed down into the bottom of the pan, and then we're going to cover it and just let it rise for about really 2 to 3 hours. I'd let it go for 3 hours. So this is just something that you're going to want to make ahead of time and let rise with the yeast in the beginning, and then with this, just make sure you have plenty of time. All right, we're going to go ahead and make our topping for the gooey butter cake. We're using 3 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of light corn syrup, 2 tablespoons of water, and 2.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. This is the main difference between just the dough and the topping. So we're just whisking that, making sure it's all stirred together. It'll be really thick and sticky, and then when you mix it with the water, that will make it more liquidy. So for in our mixer here with our paddle attachment, we're creaming together 12 tablespoons of butter. Like I said before, it's easier if this butter is at room temperature, if you can take it out ahead of time. And then a cup and a half of sugar and a half teaspoon, sorry, of salt, and then our 1 egg there. So we are literally just mixing this together, making sure it's all creamed. And then just like with our dough, we're going to alternate with flour. We're using a 1 cup plus 3 tablespoons of flour, and then that liquid mixture that we just made, and just going back and forth. And then once that's mixed together, that's it. It's pretty easy. And here we go. I'll let you see. Looks delicious. All right, so we've let our dough rise for about 2 to 3 hours, and then we're just taking our delicious topping that we just made and spooning it out onto the risen dough. And we're just going to make sure that that's, pretty even across. You can see the texture is kind of like a frosting almost. So that made it kind of easy to dollop out and spread evenly across there. Well, this is called gooey butter cake. It is actually somewhat firm. You can cut it into slices. It's similar to like a coffee cake or a brownie even. And it is actually typically served as more of a coffee cake type thing rather than a dessert. We had it for dessert, and it was fine as a dessert. So we're gonna put it in the oven and let it bake at looking 350 for 35 to 45 minutes, and you'll see that coming out right now. It's a beautiful golden brown, and it kind of has these wavy ripples on the top. That's totally fine. Looks amazing. And then once it cools a little bit, we're going to go ahead and sprinkle it with some powdered sugar. As you can see, I'm using a strainer just to help sift it and just make it go on there a little bit smoother, and looks really, really pretty. And it was delicious.